Hi guys, so today we're going to just be having a quick look at how to create some animations specifically for this example with buttons. So I've got two files, a buttons CSS file and a buttons HTML file. So if we go into our HTML file and if we just use the shortcut to get our document boilerplate and give it a name, buttons. You can call it whatever you like, but that makes sense. And we'll start by creating 3 buttons. And we'll name them, we'll give them a class name of button. We'll want 3 of those. And then let's give each one another name and another class to match. So the text in the first button will be grow, and we'll give it a class of grow as well. And for the second one, we shall have a class of bounce, and we shall give it the text of bounce. And the third one, let's go for glow, or maybe because we've already got grow is very similar, let's call it shine or shadow. Let's call it shadow, just to save confusion, and then we'll give it a name of shadow. And there we got our 3 buttons to start us off. That's pretty much all we need to do in the HTML file for now. Go into the CSS file. We'll start by just giving the body some background colour. Let's make it a dark grey. Being silly, not included my CSS file into the HTML. So we shall add in a link to buttons.css. There we go, that's better. I've got this running with live server extension in VS Code, which is why it's updating. If you've not heard of live server, look it up, give it a download from the extensions. It'll make things much easier for testing and running things simultaneously. As you code, you can watch your files. So, back to the CSS. I've got a background colour with a nice grey. Let's make it a flex, just to centre things. So display flex, justify, content, centre, just so it's in the centre of the page, and a line item centre, just to put it properly centred in the X and Y axis. The reason that's not going to work is because the body needs a height, so I'll give the body a height of 100 VH, which is 100% of the view height. And when I do that, there we go, now they're in the centre. Nice and simple. Right, so now we're going to style all of the buttons using the button class, which we've applied to all 3. Let's give them a background colour of, oops, don't know where that came from. Sometimes I type a bit too quick. As you can see, I'm making multiple typing errors. Okay, and because we've got black buttons, we now need white text, otherwise we're not going to be able to read it. So, colour. There we go, that's better. Let's give them all a set width of 100 pixels, just so they're a bit more uniform. And just to make them look a bit nicer, give them a padding top and bottom of 10 pixels and left and right of 20 pixels. And just to space them out, let's give them a margin of 20 pixels. There we go, that looks better. And I'm going to take off the normal border that comes with the default buttons in your browser. Let's have a border 2 pixels solid. Let's go for an orange. I don't like that orange. I'm a bit picky with colours, even though I've got no colour sense when it comes to design. But there we go, that's hopefully a bit better. I like that a bit more. You can use whatever colours you like, obviously. And just to make it a bit nicer again, let's use a border radius and give it a small curve on the corners. 5 pixels, maybe that's too little. 10, I think 10 is a nice number. There we go, nice and smooth. And then the classes we chose were grow, bounce and shadow, so let's create them. Grow, bounce, and shadow. Let's start with the grow. What we're going to do is we're going to animate this button so that when we hover over it, it increases in size, but on an infinite loop, just to highlight that it is the currently highlighted button. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to create an animation, which we have to create separately using the keyframes selector. And keyframes, I'll give it a name of grow, just to match its class. And then in here we go animation name is grow. So that links us to this animation. Right, and how animations work, we have to declare the CSS for the different points within the animation. So we want, when we start at 0%, so when the animation begins, we want a, let's do a transform. You can probably hear my cat in the background meowing. Right. Just ignore that. And don't know why I do translate. Let's go for scale of 1 at the start, so just its normal, 100% to its normal size, just 1. And then we want 50%, so halfway through we want the transform to be of a scale of 1 point, let's just keep it at 1.2 for now, and let's just copy and paste that because I don't like having to keep writing the percentages out. Change that to 100% and then put it back to 1. So what we expect to happen now is for the animation to start at a normal size. We expect this to grow a little bit and then go back to its original size. Now, before that's going to work, we need to add an animation duration. Otherwise, it doesn't know how long to take. So we should give it a 1 second duration. And there you go. You see it animated once. We want it to continue. So let's add animation iteration count, which is a bit of a mouthful. And probably one of the weirdest names. I feel like they could have come up with a better name for that when they did CSS. But and then we give it, we could say 2, and it'll go twice. We can say once, which is the default. We can say any number we like, but we're going to put infinite, which means it'll just keep running. There we go. That's what we expected to see. Now we want this to only work when we hover it, so we simply just put the hover class onto the grow, and then there we go. That's our first button animated. Now the second one will be very similar, so I'm just going to copy this, make sure that says hover, and I'll just copy code, and all I need to do is change the animation name to hover, and we're talking about to bounce, and then just create an animation that matches that one. Similar layout. This one needs to be called bounce as discussed, and instead of scale this time we're going to do a transform with a translate y. We'll start at 0 from its original position, so translate y, so at 0 it isn't moving anywhere, and then just copy that, and then we want to translate to minus, let's just do 5 pixels, and if we do minus because it's in the y-axis, if we do a positive number it'll move downward, if it's a negative number it'll move upward. So that will do that, then we copy that again, and just for that last 100% mark we'll put it back to 0. We can play about with these numbers and do whatever we like, but that should work. There we go, we've got a nice little bounce in there now. So we've got a growing button, a bouncing button. And the last one we're going to do is going to be a little bit different. I'm just going to copy this code, and then anywhere where it says bounce, let's just change it to shadow. And instead of animating the transform, we're going to animate the box shadow. So let's just move that. Let's move that up to the 0% mark. Box shadow with a 0 movement on the x-axis, a 0 movement on the y-axis, and a 5 pixel size and a 5 pixel spread. And the colour we want, we'll go for that same orange, I think, that we used before. So let's just copy and paste that. And then, and obviously I need to just copy that again into here. And again into here. Now the only difference is for the middle one, that these should all be 0. It's just the middle one that I want to have the 5 pixels. So 0, 0, 0, 0. Second one is 0, 0, 5 pixels, 5 pixels. And again at the end we should have 0, 0, 0, 0. And that's it. Okay, and I haven't changed the name from bounce to shadow, so that's just silly of me. There we go. Now we've got a nice glowing shadow on that one. So there, just 3 simple ways that you can animate buttons or animate anything really within your page, just to make it pop, as they would like to say. Not a word I like to use, but just gives it a bit of dimension in your page, makes it feel a bit less flat and a bit more interactive. So I hope that gives you some inspiration to play about with, see what animations you can create. Good luck, and I'll see you in the next video.